Yo, peace, asharenu, synergy, plus lesson number 3. So when we think about synergy or synchronicity, the subconscious mind communicates with us through symbols. So although we have definitions to symbols such as an cross, wakaba, all the symbols that we see externally have their meanings. But we also have to see what they have to do with us personally. For example, if you're constantly seeing the cross to the point where you notice it, not only do you look up what it could possibly mean, but you have to understand what does it have to do with you. Are you thinking particular thoughts at the time where you see the cross? Or are you thinking negative thoughts or positive thoughts? Were you thinking about a particular person? Was it within a certain type of subject matter? We have to relate these things to what we personally are going through beyond the definition of the cross, or whatever symbol you may be seeing, or whatever numerology pattern. Whatever it is, we have to take into consideration our personal interpretations as well. For example, if I'm seeing 333, and I know that 3 represents Jupiter, see, we have this external concept of what 3 may represent. Well, we can say, yes, Jupiter correlates with the sex chakra or the sacral chakra, etc., etc., etc. But we also have to correlate it to our personal experience. For example, 3, if you live in a house vibration of 3, that means it's a planet Jupiter, so the house will be very creative. It will be very, uplifting and positive. Now, when I go back in my past and I look at the house I grew up in, which so happened to be a 3, I look at, well, was it creative? Was it positive? Was it optimistic like the definitions say? Can I make it real in my reality? Did it really prove that this is the type of energy that is radiated? And I remember as a child, before I knew anything about a vision board, I would put posters and things on my wall just to express the type of things that I wanted to do in the future, even before I knew anything about spirituality. So when I think back at my house vibration and I see it was a 3, and I see, okay, I was being very creative in terms of putting things on my wall and playing video games and doing all type of things that kids do, just being creative. So I say, okay, that makes sense to me. Now, another example may be a 5, which is Mercury. Now, if you ever lived in a Mercury house, all you have to do is go back and see, okay, does that vibration really pay off in my experience? And I remember when I lived in a house vibration of 5, I was very active. I was very, you can say, progressive in my thought. That's when I learned about meditation. I started to get into my spirituality and everything. So I say, okay, if 5 is about activity, progressive thought, it's like a party house, and I did a lot of dancing and everything. So I say, okay, it actually do prove true in my reality again. So that's 2 separate houses on 2 separate occasions that I can correlate Jupiter or 3 or Mercury or 5, and I can make it real to me. So I say, okay, if I ever wanted to change my house vibration into a particular number, I already know what to expect, so I can bring that energy to life right now, as opposed to saying, okay, well, it represents this or that and the third, but I don't have any personal experience. So now that you combined it with your personal experience, this is where the magic happens. This is why it's important to have a book of shadows to document your spiritual progress. See, when you test out the formulas as a scientist, as an alchemist, you want to document everything that you do so you can see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. For example, if you constantly see 1111 outside of yourself, you bring it within and you start to chant it and you start to visualize it however you want to do it. And after you are done with the experiment, you document what the results were. You're not going to remember every little detail, like you're not going to have every little detail locked into your memory. So it's best to write it down, so when you come back to it after doing your experiments, you can see what works and what you can do to enhance it. You can say, maybe I can add more colors, maybe I can wear this certain color, maybe I can have these certain type of thoughts, maybe I can go to this location instead of this location. You start to do things in real time so that you can really exercise your mind and watch how the universe will reflect what you're thinking, what you're doing. Everything will become more apparent the more attention you pay to your journey. Now let's talk about Twilight language, the language of parables, things that have multiple meanings. So although, for example, we may hear a song and we'll listen to the lyrics are going to mean one thing on the surface level based on what the song is about. But we can personalize any song and make it mean whatever we want it to mean. So for example, we can take the lyrics from a song and break the lyrics down verse by verse and apply an eternal meaning to each line, so that when we memorize a song and we know about heart, we're saying things externally, but internally, that's where real power is. We gave it personal meaning. So when we repeat the words, instead of things manifesting that has something to do with the song, they will manifest based on your personalization of the meaning. meanings because you took the time out to decode what it means to you. So when we start to analyze this Twilight language, well, we can make anything mean anything. So for example, if you see a pyramid as a symbol, you can say the pyramid represents this or that, whatever you feel it represents. But what does it mean to you? Now, whatever it means to you, you can say, okay, it's 3 points. To me, it's the Holy Trinity. Mother, father, child, beginning, middle, end, will. You can give it whatever meaning you want it to give it. So every time you see a pyramid, you think about that thought, and you take that thought into your subconscious by thinking about it over and over again and seeing what happens as you marinate and concentrate and focus on this thought. So now that we know that we can give anything meaning, because everything has a symbol, the subconscious speaks in symbols. So each company, we can go outside right now and look at any company. They all have whatever the title is, and they all have a symbol. When we start to give meanings to these symbols, the symbols that we're seeing every day anyway. So instead of just looking over, oh, is this meaning or this meaning? When we start to give it life, we give these symbols life. We go outside, we see arrows, you know what I mean? We see cars with symbols, we see animal symbols, we see all types of symbols. And when we give it meaning, and we start to notice a pattern, like, okay, I saw this symbol here, here, here. When you start to see it enough times where you start to analyze it, like, okay, well, what am I thinking at that time? What am I doing at that time? What does it really mean to me? We start personalizing everything that we see. When we personalize it, this is us using our magic. This is what magic is when we personalize reality and make it mean what we want it to mean so that we can have the experiences and have the feelings that we want to feel. Because let's just say something has a negative meaning. You see a certain symbol, it gives you negative thoughts or negative emotions. When you can flip it like an alchemist, you turn a negative into a positive by flipping it. Now it has a positive meaning. Now when you see it, you actually feel good. So now you can offset something negative and made it positive. So we can do this with any type of experience, any type of symbol, any type of memory we have so that we can have better control over our emotions. And when we have control over our emotions, by using these symbols, by speaking in this Twilight language, by giving things inner meanings, and we feel good at all times, we feel positive at all times, we don't allow things to trip us up. You already know what that leads to, success. Let's close out with the quickening. Anything that we can think or desire, we are already in alignment with. For example, if you think about a rose, you are in alignment with the rose. That's why the image appears in your mind. That's why you think about the word, and you can activate your senses and smell it and do all that stuff because we are already in alignment with it because we are thinking about it. We don't have to wait till something manifests to be in alignment with it. Just having a thought about something puts you in alignment with it. It's all about, can you assume and hold yourself in position while time passes, so it has time to manifest, and hold faith and be strong in your beliefs until it manifests, because if we don't realize that we are already in alignment with it, us not having it throws us off. So if we could say, I desire a rose, but I don't have a rose, you can't desire it if you don't already have it, if we really understand metaphysics. If we are already putting it on our head, on our minds, and imagining it and smelling it, for example, the rose, if we're already doing all these things mentally, eternally, how can we not be in alignment with it? And the only thing we have to do is realize that. And that's where the faith comes in. That's where the true power is. If we can tune ourselves into something and hold that firm without breaking our concentration, then when it does manifest, whether through a symbol, whether it's somebody saying it, whether it's somebody giving you a rose, whenever the rose manifests in your reality, you know that you had something to do with that because it's not just a random event. It's an external situation being displayed internally or vice versa. So if we can align with anything we can think about, we are already that. We are already everything. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to want. There's nothing to desire. We already are in tune with everything. And the only thing we have to do is hold that faith and allow it to harvest. Allow the seeds that we plant to harvest. That's the only thing we have to do. So that's what it is. Peace.